What's going on, guys? It's Rest, and in today's video I want to go over the Green Monster Amara build. If you don't know, the Green Monster is a class mod that is on modes that is based all around doing corrosive damage, and that is exactly what this build is based around as well. I have recently done a phase cast and a phase grass build, so if you would like to check those out, definitely be sure to go watch those. But this build is based all around Phaseslam. You're going to be doing an insane amount of corrosive damage on top of using your Phaseslam at all times. So if that interests you, as always, my builds are located in my Discord channel. If you would like to download them, the link to the Discord will be in the description. If you download the build, enjoy the video, or find it helpful in any way, consider subscribing and dropping a like. It's free, and it's what allows me to keep making videos like this for you guys. But with all that being said, I hope you enjoyed the build. Alright, so as you see here, we are running everything corrosive. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, if it's just corrosion, it's not going to do good in every part of the game. And I'm happy to say that it absolutely is. So, as you see here, we're running things like the Gargoyle, the Breath of the Dying. This is your main weapon you're going to be using. The Reflex is super fun with this. The Plague Bearer, the Backburner, Sandhawk, and Cutsman, all corrosive. All have Phaseslam annoyance other than the two rockets, because honestly, 300% over 90 is better on rockets generally. But everything else is a Phaseslam annoyance. And the Phaseslam annoyance is what's going to allow you to start doing damage. So if you're going against a shield, obviously corrosion is not the greatest. So you're going to use your Phaseslam to get that damage increase to kill that enemy, which then in return is going to give you more corrosive damage with the Flesh Melter Victory Rush right here. So if you don't know what this does, this is going to give you 30% bonus corrosive damage, and it can stack up to 5 times. So at max stacks of this, you're getting 150% bonus corrosive damage, which is buffing everything in this build. Plus, you're getting 18% more movement speed and damage when you kill a bigger enemy, which is pretty much all the time on Mayhem 10. So you're always going to have this buff. So that's just more damage as well. We're getting more magazine size, more axial cooldown rate, and more corrosive damage with this too. All of those are really, really good. Obviously, buffing corrosive damage even more. And magazine size helps out a lot generally, and cooldown rate is going to let your Phaseslam come back quicker so you can keep proccing your Phaseslam annoyance. Once you get max stacks of this and you have Phaseslam equipped, you can melt enemies. Like even on like anointed enemies, obviously their flesh, corrosive just melts them. It's honestly ridiculous. Now, to help with the corrosive damage even more, I'm going to be running an Old God where you get on accidentally 50% bonus corrosive damage, but the Old God itself is giving you 20% bonus corrosive damage, which is really, really good. So that's adding on top of all the corrosive damage you're already doing, and it's making it even better. But now, for the class mod, we're running the Phase Zerker with plus 5 points of clarity. This is going to give you 32% weapon damage, 40% assault rifle damage, which is good for the Breath of the Dying, and 58% DAW critical hit damage. The DAW critical hit damage is really good for the Sandhawk and obviously the Breath of the Dying. The Breath of the Dying is going to be your main weapon. I'm going to just go on and say that. This recently got buffed to do an insane amount of damage. As you see, it's doing 18,000 damage. It's ridiculous. And if you don't know what this does, essentially when you kill an enemy, it's going to spawn these orbs that are going to come out and do even more damage. The ad clear potential of this is absolutely insane, and honestly is not even that bad for bossing either. On some bosses, you can line those orbs up to just one hit an enemy, and it is absolutely ridiculous. Now, since we're fully going corrosive, we're always going to be able to proc this. It's actually kind of crazy, but we're always going to have these orbs procking. Sometimes the game glitches and it doesn't proc them, but for the most part, you can expect every single kill you get to proc these orbs to go out and kill more enemies. Now, the other weapons, like I said, Reflex is fun. It's very good at ad clearing, just like the Breath of the Dying. The Gargoyle is super fun for like single targets. Obviously, the rockets right here. This one's really good for ad clearing, and this one's really good for single target. Sandhawk's really good for single target. Cutsman's fun. Now, you might see we have a Hellwalker right here. And that is because if you go up against an enemy that is resistant to corrosive, you need to swap to something to kill that enemy. And there's nothing better than the Hellwalker to do that. And as you see, this has a Phaseslam annoyance, so you can buff the damage of that as well. And you can just go on and wipe that enemy out that game. So, solely just use this if they're resistant to corrosive. Everything else is perfectly fine, and you're going to be able to destroy everything. Now for the grenade, since like I said, we're going fully corrosion, I'm running It's Piss with on grenade 3. You get more weapon damage, axial damage, and grenade damage. Really, really good weapon damage is buffing all this, and your axial is getting a little bit more damage, but we're not really focused on buffing your axial damage. And then finally, for the last artifact, a cut burst launch pad, so we can refill our ammo by slamming on the ground. It's going to shoot rockets out. All those rockets refill your ammo. This is really good, especially if you're spamming something like the rockets. Honestly, if you want to run both rockets like this and You can equip this whenever you need ammo. You can spam rockets. It's whatever you want to do. And the corrosion damage you're going to get from this is absolutely ridiculous. Now, getting into the skills, I'm putting 3 points of fast hands and 1 point in do harm, 1 point in violent tapestry to get down to the bottom. These don't really matter because I'm just trying to proc Phaseslam to buff our damage so we can get our corrosive damage stacking up. Now, fast hands is good because you can swap between your weapons really quick and it gives you a little bit more reload speed, which is nice. 3 points of transcend, so we can buff our critical hit damage now, and we use our skill instead of just our base damage, and we're getting more accuracy, which is nice. 5 points of restless, so we can get more cooldown rate to get our Phaseslam back as quick as possible, so we can keep proccing all the stuff that I'm going over. 4 points of alacrity, so we can get a ton of reload speed with our max rust stacks to keep our DPS up. 1 point in ascendant, so we can buff whatever augment we're using. I'm just running revelation over here. I just like the explosions that come out, and they can do a good bit of damage, and it works really well with our action skill. 3 points in late bear, so whenever our axe hits an enemy, we're going to get 25% increased damage to that enemy, which is really nice. 3 points of vast, so whenever we use our axe skill, we're 20% more gun damage, 20% more after you use the axe skill on top of that, which is nice. 1 point from rest to get 4% more fire rate, doesn't really matter, but 21% more charge speed, which is good for weapons like the play bear, because if you don't know, this actually has a charge time, which is going to increase that. Plus, on things like the cutsman right here, you're going to also increase that charge time to do even more damage with that. 1 point in remnant, so we can get an overkill orb to spawn, which is going to do the same amount of damage, even with it being a corrosion orb, because we're going to be running the corrosion action skill element. Shocker. This is going to do an insane amount of damage, especially pair it with your flesh melter. It is insane. 1 point avatar, so you can use your axe tool twice, which means everything I just said you can do twice now. You can time it out to keep your cooldowns always up. Your buffs are always going to be up, and the damage you get is just going to be absolutely insane. Now, going into Fist of Elements, I'm putting 5 points in Anima so we can buff our status effect damage duration, plus our axe skill's status effect damage is buffed even more. So we're buffing corrosion even more with this. This is the only time, honestly, Anima is good, or if you're running a complete dot build. Anima most times just get you killed, then it actually benefits you, but it does benefit in this build to buff your corrosion even more. 3 points of steady hand, so we get more handling and accuracy, really good, and you gotta get down to the bottom. 5 points of tempest, so we get 30% more elemental damage, which means 30% more corrosive damage, really good. 1 point illuminated fist, so we can change our elemental damage to corrosion, so now not only is our guns doing corrosion, our melee damage is doing corrosion. 2 points of wildfire to get down to the bottom. 1 point deep well, so we can buff our elemental magazine size by 20%, really good. 3 points in indiscriminate, so all our bullets can ricochet. This is going to help out a lot with the ad clear of this build. All your bullets are going to ricochet, killing a ton of stuff, and it is super good. 2 points of sustainment, because this is really all you need, but you're getting 8% lifesteal based on whatever elemental damage you're doing, so this is going to help keep you up a lot. Finally, in the last tree, 3 points of personal space, so we can get a ton of damage when we're up close to an enemy, which is really good. 2 points of root to rot, so we can buff our health even more. Now we're getting 5 points of clarity, even though I'm putting 0 in it because of our class mount, which is going to give you a little bit more health generation, which is nice. 5 points in help and hand, so every time we use our axe skill, we're getting 40% damage reduction, which we will pretty much always have this procced. 3 points of Samsara, so every time our axe skill hits an enemy, we're getting even more health generation plus more gun damage. It stacks up to 5 times, and you get 5% of both of those, which is really nice. Then 1 point Vine Center, so we get even more melee damage and more melee range, which is super nice for this build as well, because since you're doing a lot of damage, you know, really quick, your groundbreaker is going to be stacked up. You're going to do a ton of corrosive damage since your melee is corrosion, and this also turns into a corrosive melee build. Now, for the action skill, we're going to be running fracture. I saved this for last because I just want to go over what this is doing. Obviously, fracture is going to proc your Phaseslam Annoyance now, since that got fixed in a hot fix. Now fracture actually procs your Phaseslam Annoyance, but the good thing about fracture is that it's on a 28-second cooldown, so that means it's on the same cooldown as phase cast, so you can expect phase cast style cooldown rates in a Phaseslam build. And since it's a huge lawn area, this is going to proc Samsara easily, and it's going to help proc things like late bear, so you can do even more damage with that. Fracture makes this super good. It lets you quickly get all your stuff stacked up, so you can stack your corrosion damage. Then you can easily pop the skin to buff even more damage, and it's just a constant repeat, and it makes the corrosion element absolutely insane. Alright, so that's going to do it for the Green Monster Amara build. If you've ever wanted to focus on one specific element on Amara, which is not really that often, this is definitely the build for you. The amount of corrosion damage you're going to get out from this is absolutely insane. You can run whatever corrosion weapon you want to with this and it's going to perform well. And like I said, the Hellwalker is included just in case you come up against a corrosive resistant target, you can kill it. Now, I want to say really quick, the reason I have no points for Forceful Expression and Infusion is because for my testing, those skill points, even if you do have corrosive damage on, it actually hinders with the procs of Breath of the Dying. So that's why I'm opting to put no points into it. And I need to get down to Fracture on the Green Tree, so I'll put a lot in Brawl. Like I said, the Breath of the Dying procs 99% of the time, but sometimes the game does glitch. Honestly, I don't know if it's a glitch. It might be since the old god has a bonus ASC on it. That's what's killing it, and it's not actually killing for Breath of the Dying. But for the majority of the time, you are gonna always see the Breath of the Dying procs, and it is super, super fun. A tip I could give for this build is to use the Plague Bearer to kill enemies really quick with the rocket. Gonna have your max stacks, and then you can swap to whatever corrosion weapon you want to, and you're gonna get 150% more damage on top of the Phaseslam damage, and on top of all your skill damage, plus the Phasezerker damage, plus the It's Piss damage if you want to throw that too. It is absolutely insane, and this is honestly one of the most fun builds I've ever made. But that is going to do all for me. I really hope you guys enjoyed this build. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
I got nobody to lean on, got a cold heart in a cold world. Ever since you left, I don't know what's next, I ain't found closure. I keep a knife in my chest just to cut holes off, I don't know.